Hey guys, we're live. It's Ted Bogert back with the TED Show. You all know I have a passion and a heart for our military, our heroes, and I'm super excited to have Lily Dagdag and Patricia Talavera on the show. Operation SYT Launch, SYT Biz. You guys are going to hear all about what they're doing in that amazing community. Welcome, ladies. How are you?
Good.
Good. All right. So, origin story, we talked about it before we went live. We want to know a little bit about you guys because people love to hear the journey of how you were in the beginning and how you got to launching Operation SYT and SYT Biz. But they like to hear a little bit of the history. You know, if you want to throw dirt at us, that's fine. If you don't, that's okay too. But welcome, and then we'll start with Lily, and then we'll just continue on. Lily, welcome.
Thank you for having us. So my sister and I, Patricia, we started our business about 10 years ago. My husband was in Korea at the time. We had been married a few years, and in that time, I had already moved maybe 4 times. And I was just like, you know what? A day job is just not going to happen. So we decided to go out on our own. Patricia had also been getting fed up with her corporate job and was like, now's as good a time as any to. A lot of people will say that they knew they want to be entrepreneurs their whole life. Me and Patricia, that's not true at all.
I love that. So that is one of the most profound statements. You didn't know, because I think a lot of people look at entrepreneurs and go, they always knew, they always had an inkling. But yet you don't until you're presented with this opportunity, or you're forced into a situation where you have to make a decision. So I love that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, for a long time, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I got into my second year of college and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I finished my degree anyway because I'd already got so far, but that degree has basically gone to waste. I'm now working on my second degree in graphic design, so my sister and I can expand our business and do a little bit more branding instead of just website design. About 5 years ago, we were at a local event with entrepreneurs or veteran entrepreneurs here. 100 Entrepreneurs is a local organization that works with wounded veterans in the military who are looking at what their next steps are when they get out of the military. And a lot of them, they want to look at entrepreneurship as an option because they don't really want a regular job after the military. And so we were like, we want to be able to help too. What can we do to help military entrepreneurs in their journey? And we said, we do websites. So we'll just do that for, the military too. That's an easy way of doing it. So when we first launched Operation SYT Launch, it was really just about building discounted websites for military. Within the last year, it's taken a little bit of a turn, and now we're focusing on helping military spouses because that's the journey that I know best. Not just with websites, but with coaching, accountability, and all sorts of things to kind of help them from the coming up with the idea to their business all the way into the first year, because we wasted apparently 3 years. We've been saying 4 years now. We wasted the first 3 years of our business kind of just jumping around, doing different things and wasting time. And we're trying to help people kind of avoid that and really get some guidance in what they're doing and how they can get started and actually get to the business part of it, and not so much the thinking and ideas and planning, which can go on for an indefinite period of time.
So I have lots of questions for you, but I don't want to leave Patricia out. So Patricia, you don't have the military background. So did Lily grab you kicking and screaming or to do this venture? Or did you decide, you know what, I'm tired of corporate. I got to do something. I want to make a positive impact. Or is it somewhere in between?
I mean, actually, the funny thing is I also went to college for something entirely different. I was going to be a psychologist at some point. And then, right before I graduated, I got married. And I'm like, you know what? I need a paycheck like now. So I ended up taking the first job I was offered. And within a year, the stress was like eating me alive. And I was like, I can't do this. So then I took another job just to have any job. And when that job ended, then Lily was like, this isn't working for me. And I'm like, this isn't working for me either. Let's just do this. Happens. So we ended up being like, we should just create our own opportunities, right? Because we're tired of depending on other people and always doing all the work but getting none of the credit. So at the very least, in our own business, we own it all, right? We own the
You
credit.
got it. 100% you.
It's 100% us. So I'm like, so at the very least, if I'm going to be, busting my butt and working hard, I'm going to get all the credit that's deserved instead of constantly working at a higher level for them to be like, well, you should always be trying to get ahead. I'm like, that's just your way of making me do more work for less money. And I don't really like that.
That is so true. Oh my God, that is so true.
So, that's when I ended up, going into business with Lily. And then when by the time we were kind of dealing with like 100 entrepreneurs and stuff like that, I had already seen how the military community gave back to my sister and my brother-in-law when he was transitioning, and they were so great about it. And we've met a lot of really awesome people like Vince Loran through the community. And so he's awesome. So I was 100% on board with launching a passion project to help the military community in any way we can.
So let me ask you, right? So I think people don't understand that there is a challenge when you are in the military or you're a military spouse, part of the military, to transition into civilian life or do something entrepreneurial in civilian life. You've got all of these skills or you've got all of this experience, but it doesn't necessarily translate into being an entrepreneur. You don't know how to translate it. It certainly doesn't go into the mold of corporate. So I love the fact that you guys recognize that, but let's talk about how that comes into play. So you work with primarily military spouses who have an entrepreneurial spirit, or maybe they don't know it yet, but they have an entrepreneurial spirit. And then what happens next? If I come to you and I'm a spouse and I go, okay, Lily and Patricia, I want to do X, Y, Z. What happens with Operation SYT and Syt Biz?
So right now, again, the main focus is helping them launch a website, right? Because a website can be it can be expensive, honestly. We've found that most of the spouses that we're working with, especially ones who are just getting started, you don't need anything fancy, but you do need something professional, and you do need something that's going to work, right? Nowadays, everybody's like, anybody can build a website. Yeah, but can anybody build a good website? Not necessarily. So we're here to help people kind of have even just that starting piece. And the goal is to be able to launch a course within the next couple of months to really help them, again, with accountability, with planning and all of that, within the first 6 months to a year of their business. Yes, definitely one thing about the military is definitely that camaraderie, right? Whether you're military spouses or you're talking about the military members themselves, you're used to getting a lot of support. And when you get out of the military, that support isn't always as easy to find.
Right.
And when you're an entrepreneur, especially an online entrepreneur, more often than not, you're in your home office by yourself, alone all the time, with no help, no accountability, no nothing. And so our goal is to be able to help provide some of that, not just as somebody who's been in their shoes, but as somebody who's been doing this for quite a while and hopefully knows a little more than they do.
Well, I think it's fascinating because websites, anything that's social media or website, can be very scary for people who haven't had to utilize that before, haven't had to do anything with that before. I have a TED Show page. I'll just share this kind of as my example. I avoid it because a lot of people, I don't know how to work it, but I have it there. But I think it's so critical because what do people usually ask you when you meet them? Show me your website.
Right.
Give me some sort of idea what your social media presence is. And then I will judge whether or not I can engage with you as an entrepreneur or a business owner or both. And so I think that you helping them with that is such a critical foundation block of them being able to make it to the next step of that entrepreneurial thing that they're trying to do. That that is just beautiful. I still to this day I won't mention the service, but I use services. I have not engaged someone professionally, and I think it's so critical for everyone to do that, especially if you're a military spouse, a military person, and you're coming out and you're trying to maneuver through the crazy civilian world.
Right.
So what happens? So somebody comes to you guys, they go, all right, I've got an idea. You obviously aren't just throwing up a basic skeletal, site. You're trying to help them get to the point where it looks like they have the backing and the experience and the things that, because website is really that first impression.
And that's again the point. So when you're looking at, we basically do template-based designs for our military customers, mostly because if people don't know what they don't know, right? You can ask them what they want, they'll be like, I don't know. But if you give them templates, they're like, I like that. And so it's a lot easier for them to make a choice, and they don't have to get paralyzed by not even knowing where to start. Right. And while the templates may seem simple, at least our basic side is simple, the other templates we have are a little bit more complicated, we still have strategy behind that. And that's the point, right? A person who's not experienced with these things is not going to know those basic pieces to put into place. And therefore, the website itself won't do them any good because it won't even get across the necessary information, or they won't even think about the basic things, like a contact form and, you know, those sorts of things. Right. And so that's why we kind of try to get across to people, even if you DIY. And that's fine. You know, if you don't have the budget or you don't have the time and you need to do it yourself, that's fine. There are still basic things that you need to keep in mind. And I think that that's what we help people do, is that they have something that really works for them. And it's also something that they can easily expand, because we work with because we work with Divi. As they get more skills, as they figure it out, then it's easy for them to turn it into something bigger and better, instead of starting with like a free website solution, and a month later you're like, this isn't good enough, I need to do something, and then you got to spend more money to just do it all over again.
Well, it's confusing, right? So when you're talking about websites in general, websites can be confusing. So anybody can try to figure out how to use a basic template that some of those other places have, but is that really what you want to represent this dream that you're trying to bring in? You're trying to birth it. And so you want professionals like you and Patricia, Lily, to help you kind of cater it, even if it's a template. Somebody's still listening to you about, well, I like that, but I don't like this. And you're bouncing these ideas off people. It's so critical, because otherwise, who are they going to bounce it off?
Random people. That's you. And you know, I think it's like, and maybe I'm biased because I'm a website designer. It's like, but honestly, websites are still important in the days of social media. What you were saying reminded me of when we went to the military influencer conference last year, and we ran into these guys, and they were like, we told people we're a firm, and the first thing they asked was, what's your website? Not, do you have an office? Not, how many employees do you have? Not, what kind of experience do you have? Do you have a website? And I was like, yes, because honestly, that's the first thing most people ask. Only thing worse than people who don't have a website because they don't have a need, they think they don't have a need for it, are people like, oh, I have one, but I don't use it. I'm like, but you should use it. Oh yeah,
you got to be so careful, right? So I have the tedshow.com. It needs to be fleshed out and developed. If that was my first starting place, it would be critical for me to engage you two in order for me to get the message across and make it look like something I would be comfortable giving the website address out to.
Right.
Because what do you like? You don't want something, if your whole website, for example, you're a graphic designer, you're a military spouse, you want to be a graphic designer, the first thing I'm going to look at is, if your website isn't looking so pretty, I'm not sure I want you to be my graphic designer. If you're a restaurant or you're cooking food and your pictures look like something I wouldn't feed anybody, I'm not going to engage you in business. So it is absolutely critical, I think, what you guys are doing. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
Recently, we even launched a service where people can talk to us for like 15 or 30 minutes to just ask us what they can do to improve their current website. Again, in case they don't have the budget, because even making some strategic changes can always be enough. You don't necessarily have to throw everything away and start all over again. It really just takes a few little tweaks that can make your website more effective. Then you can make more money. Then you can hire us.
Agreed. And I think especially our military are this untapped market of creativity and experience that we don't get to see in the basic corporate civilian world, because they just don't match. It's like an X and an O. And so you're trying to figure out what to do, and you've got this idea, but you don't know how to create it, you don't know how to implement it. And you guys having this service is just such a big deal. I feel like it's a giant deal. And you all want to expand, correct? You guys are expanding. I heard you say courses, or tell us a little bit about what the big next steps are.
So we know that there are probably a lot of military spouses right now looking to start a business because of everything that's going on. And we are looking to encourage military spouses to start a VA business, a virtual assistant business, because it's something that you can do with your own skills. Whatever skills you happen to have, you turn that into a VA business and you're done. And all you really need is a computer. So our next thing is going to be a boot camp to help military spouses launch a virtual assistant business from start to finish. And hopefully that will come out in the next couple of months, along with, again, accountability, mentoring, and all that, to be able to help them, actually do this. Because a lot of people, they think about it for a long time and they're Googling and they're doing this and they're doing that, but they're not actually taking action. So we're here to help them take that action.
Right.
It's hard out there, right? Because you believe you have a gift, a talent, but you don't know how to make it profitable, or where there's a way to make a business out of it. So, for example, if you're somebody out there thinking of the virtual assistant, you're somebody out there who is super organized, task oriented, good on the phone, good with emails. There's so many different kinds of virtual assistant projects. And what a great idea, because then you do it from the comfort of your home. You are using the talents and the gifts that you're given. You're not stressed out. Like, there are so many people, for example, I've used virtual assistant to do database stuff. I mean, if somebody is good at database, you could write your own ticket, people. I'm just telling you. People like me that aren't, I would pay somebody to handle the database management of that, being a virtual assistant. So I absolutely love that. And I think it's so great, because guess what, guys, the military, they don't pay that well.
No.
Having a spouse out there and being able to capitalize on his or her talents is a big deal from an income perspective, from a what happens when I get out of the military perspective. There's so many great things that can be done with what you all are doing.
Right, exactly.
All right, so how can people best reach you? What if do you only take military spouses? I had that question earlier.
No. So Operation SYT Launch is for military in general. It's just easier to target our marketing to military spouses. But we work with anybody within the military. And anybody who's not in the military, we work with them through our regular business, the Syt Biz.
Fantastic. And what's the best way? I put both websites down there, OperationSYTLaunch.com and SytBiz.com. Those are the best ways to reach out to the two of you?
Yes, and we're also on Facebook, Facebook.com/SytBiz, and Instagram.com/SytBiz_OSL.
All right, so I have two questions left. I have to ask, why did you choose Embrace Your Own Pace?
So we have had quite a journey in the time that we've been business owners. We've been in it for 10 years, and it's easy to look at other people who've been in their business as long and think, wow, they're so much further than us, and they're more successful than us. But the reality is, we've learned to define success in our own way. And I think that's the most important thing as a business owner. Don't look at them. Don't worry about what you're doing is what matters. My definition of success is being able to work with the clients that I love and being able to put my family first. And I can do that. And bringing in money once in a while. It really just depends on what your definition of success is, and focus on that, and don't worry about what everybody else is doing.
I think that's so critical, because I think people really do, because of social media especially, they compare themselves to other people. And there's a meme out there, I wish I could take credit for this, but just because you're in chapter 1, don't compare yourself to somebody who's in chapter 10 of their journey. And I think it's just so critical to not be, you need to focus on you, focus on your business, what you're trying to accomplish, and just have
blinders on.
Yes, blinders. Wow, it's late in the day. I need coffee, apparently. Blinders on, because if you don't, you'll be so focused on what the other person is doing that you will lose track of what you are trying to accomplish.
Exactly.
All right. So Quick question before we head out, because I think my computer's about to die. Because, I didn't charge it the way I should know. It's weird. Tell us, you're both military, but tell us, we always ask our guests, heroes. When you hear that word hero, who's the first person you think of? Patricia?
Oh, what a interesting question. I mean, weirdly enough, the first person that probably comes to my mind is this blogger slash business person that I followed for a long time. And following her was actually what got us to start in our business, because I joined her mastermind and I connected with a lot of people that way. But what I really love about her is that she's so quirky. And I'm like, oh, you can make money being quirky. That's awesome. Like, I love that. Like, she curses and talks about unicorns and has like watercolor type graphics. And I'm just like, I love that she's just like, this is me. Give me your money. And I'm like, that's great. I want to be like that. That's who I want to be.
All right, Lily, how about you?
This is going to sound fake, but it's real. Okay. I would say my husband, because for all the things that he's done for our family, both while he was in active duty and since he's gotten out, I can't imagine going through all that he does and still getting up in the morning and then doing it all over again. So I definitely think that he doesn't get enough credit for what he does for us and what he's done in the past in his career in the military.
Beautiful. See, you guys were made for TV or whatever we're on. All right. So OperationSYTLaunch.com, SytBiz.com. Reach out to Lily, Patricia. If you're in the military, know somebody in the military, you want help building your site, getting your entrepreneurial game kicked off, please reach out to them. Huge thanks to Vince for the introduction. I think what you guys are doing is amazing. I'd love for you to bring back on maybe some of your clients that want to talk about their business. We could talk about that. So please, you both are welcome to come back on. You're a joy. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having
us.
All right, guys. See you later. Be back tomorrow.